I'm going to share in this post here something really controversial as an attorney, and that is I do not like trust agreements. I really do not like revocable trust agreements, and worse than that, I hate the irrevocable trusts, and here's why. For the vast majority of people, these trust agreements are just a nightmare, a pitfall waiting to cost you, the trust maker, or all of the beneficiaries down in the beneficiary class, a whole bunch of problems down the line. And bluntly, those problems end up costing people hundreds of thousands, in some cases, of dollars. And invariably, they can just wind up causing a big old fat mess that only leaves people really frustrated. And I want to point out a couple of the realities. The reality is, if you tell a consumer, yeah, it's going to cost, $5,000 or so to draft this trust, a little bit of resistance, a little bit of pushback. But the reality is, to do a trust correctly, that's probably about what the amount of time and thought process that would occur in the simplest of cases. Now, oftentimes, things are complex. And I got to tell you, where I get involved and where I've been involved for years, the most expensive probates are ones that involve trusts for a whole variety of reasons. I favor very dramatically the KISS concept. Keep it simple, stupid. And that is, do a will, drop everything by percentages, or have your bank accounts and whatever your investment stuff is by percentages. You start doing trusts, even if the deceased or the donor has really great capacity, there's all kinds of confusion that can occur there. And especially when the donor starts to get a little bit foggy or fuzzy because of capacity issues, dementia, Alzheimer's, those kind of things, it just gets to be a mess. But the huge area of liability that I see is, even if a trust is clear and done simply, the practitioner not doing it all the way. I frankly just had a phone call today, now that you mention it. Trust done properly by an attorney, knew what they were doing, drafted it, yada, yada. Maybe the attorney gave instructions for the donor to make sure that the house was deeded into the trust, but the house never made it in. So here we got a kid, trust done long ago, kid's trying to settle the thing. Some accounts go through the trust as they should, the investment accounts, they pass through to the other siblings, and that's cool, that's all well and good. But here we got a piece of property that's just titled in the dead guy's name, doesn't make it into the trust, and that's where the nightmare begins. And it ends with unraveling all the problems with the trust and all the other things. And the mere fact that property wasn't deeded in there is a big source of where all the liability and exposure that I hear is. So here's the deal. In many cases where people come in and they're asking for a trust, it's because they heard somebody talking about it at the golf club, at church, at whatever, rich uncle. They had a trust, and so, poor uncle decides that he needs to have one just to keep up with the brother. But the reality is this. That's just not the reality for so many people. Estates should be simple, right? Keep it simple, stupid. Get people's names on deeds, Ladybird deeds, enhanced life estate deeds. Get people's names on bank accounts. You die, the stuff goes to them. Easy peasy. Doing a trust, particularly for modest-ish estates, ends up costing people money. And I do have a real bone to pick with these trust farms out there, or these trust solicitation companies. Particularly the non-lawyer ones. Lots of internet advertising out there soliciting people to produce trusts without legal advice and without any conception of the mess that's being caused. So, from the insider's perspective, mom, dad has a trust and they're getting sick, getting old in years, watch out. If you're thinking about doing a trust, watch out. If you want to wind up in an attorney's office paying a whole lot of money, administer a trust for a long period of time. Don't do the proper trust accountings. Don't fulfill the statutory obligations. Don't get good advice about what all those experiences are and what's required. That's how you end up paying a whole lot of money in a trust administration.